Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one of history's greatest maritime explorers, a man whose voyages predate Columbus by decades and whose fleet was unparalleled in its time. We're talking about the legendary admiral of the Ming dynasty, Zheng He, born in 1371 in what is now Yunnan Province. Zheng He's original name was He. His early life was shaped by the tumultuous transition of power as the Ming dynasty consolidated its rule. As a young boy, he was captured and brought to the imperial court, where he eventually became a trusted confidant of the prince who would become the Yongle emperor. Recognizing his talent, loyalty, and intelligence, the emperor bestowed upon him the new surname Zheng and appointed him to a position of incredible power and responsibility. This set the stage for one of the most ambitious naval undertakings in world history. The Yongle emperor had grand ambitions. He wanted to project Ming China's power, establish a strong presence on the world stage, and expand the tributary system, a network of trade and diplomatic relations where foreign states would acknowledge China's supremacy. To achieve this, he commissioned the construction of a massive fleet, the likes of which had never been seen before. And at the helm of this treasure fleet, he placed his trusted admiral, Zheng He. So, what was this treasure fleet like? Forget everything you think you know about ships from this era. The flagship of Zheng He's fleet, the Bochuan, or treasure ship, was a colossal vessel. Historical records suggest these ships were over 400 feet long and 160 feet wide. To put that into perspective, Columbus's Santa Maria was a mere 85 feet long. These were floating cities, multi-storied giants with 9 masts, watertight compartments, and the capacity to carry over 1,000 people, including sailors, soldiers, doctors, astronomers, translators, and diplomats. The entire fleet consisted of hundreds of ships of various sizes, from the massive treasure ships to smaller vessels for carrying water, supplies, and horses. Between years 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 epic expeditions, commanding this incredible armada across the Indian Ocean. His mission was not one of conquests in the traditional sense. It was a unique blend of diplomacy, trade, and a powerful display of Ming China's might and technological prowess. The goal was to show the world the splendor of the Middle Kingdom and invite them to participate in its sphere of influence. The first voyage departed from Nanjing in 1405. Imagine the sight. Hundreds of ships with their red silk sails unfurled, setting out on a journey into the unknown. They sailed to Champa in modern-day Vietnam, then to Java and Sumatra in Indonesia, and across the Indian Ocean to the bustling ports of Calicut in India, a major hub of global trade at the time. On each stop, Zheng He and his envoys would present gifts of silk, porcelain, and other Chinese treasures to local rulers, inviting them to send envoys back to the Ming court. He wasn't there to conquer, but to build relationships and establish formal ties. Subsequent voyages pushed the boundaries even further. The fleet's routes became a well-traveled highway connecting China to the rest of the world. They reached Hormuz in the Persian Gulf, a critical choke point for trade between the East and West. They sailed down the eastern coast of Africa, making stops in places like Mogadishu in Somalia and Malindi in Kenya. This was decades before European explorers would round the Cape of Good Hope. Can you imagine the cultural exchange that took place? The people of East Africa seeing these gigantic ships appear on the horizon, and the Chinese sailors encountering cultures, animals, and goods they had never seen before. One of the most famous stories from these voyages involves a giraffe. On the 4th expedition, the fleet brought back a giraffe from the coast of modern-day Kenya, a gift from a local ruler. When it arrived at the Ming court in Nanjing, it caused a sensation. The imperial officials, who had never seen such a creature, believed it to be the mythical Qilin, a unicorn-like creature from Chinese folklore, whose appearance was said to signal the presence of a wise and benevolent ruler. This was seen as a powerful omen affirming the Yongle emperor's right to rule. But these voyages were not always peaceful strolls across the sea. The fleet was heavily armed, with thousands of soldiers and advanced gunpowder weapons. Zheng He had to deal with pirates who plagued the vital shipping lanes of the Strait of Malacca. In one famous encounter, he decisively defeated a powerful pirate chief, securing the trade route and earning the gratitude of local merchants and kingdoms. His actions brought stability to the region and demonstrated that the Ming dynasty was capable of projecting its power to protect its interests and its allies far from home. Throughout his journeys, Zheng He navigated, using advanced techniques. His ships had detailed maritime charts and a sophisticated understanding of monsoon winds, which they used to their advantage, timing their departures and returns to catch favorable currents. They used a magnetic compass, a Chinese invention, and celestial navigation, measuring the height of stars to determine their latitude. The scale and organization required to keep a fleet of this size supplied with food, fresh water, and other necessities for years at a time is simply, it speaks volumes about the administrative and logistical capabilities of the Ming dynasty. The expeditions were also a massive undertaking in terms of trade. The treasure ships returned laden with exotic goods from around the world. Spices like pepper and cloves, rare woods, precious stones, pearls, and exotic animals like lions, camels, and ostriches. This wasn't just about collecting tribute. It was a vibrant commercial exchange that enriched both China and the many ports it visited. However, these grand voyages came to an abrupt end. After the seventh expedition, which returned in 1433, the political winds in the Ming court shifted. The Yongle emperor, the primary sponsor of the expeditions, had passed away. His successors and the powerful Confucian scholar officials at court viewed the voyages as an extravagant and unnecessary expense. They argued that China was a self-sufficient empire and that the focus should be on internal matters, like defending the northern border from Mongol threats. A new policy of isolationism began to take hold. The great treasure ships were left to rot in their harbors, and the official records of the voyages were suppressed or even destroyed. It was a dramatic reversal. China, which had been the world's preeminent naval power, turned inward. The sea-ban policies became stricter, and within a few decades, the technical knowledge and skills needed to build such massive ships and navigate long-distance voyages were lost. Zheng He himself passed away during or shortly after the final voyage. His legacy, for a time, seemed to fade from history. But the impact of his travels endured. The Chinese diaspora in Southeast Asia grew, trade routes were solidified, and knowledge was exchanged on an unprecedented scale. Today, Zheng He is remembered as a symbol of peaceful cultural exchange and maritime exploration. His story challenges the traditional Eurocentric view of the age of discovery. It reminds us that long before Columbus or Vasco da Gama, great fleets were sailing the world's oceans, connecting cultures and expanding our collective understanding of the planet. He was a diplomat, a soldier, a trader, and a master navigator who led one of the most impressive feats of exploration in human history. His treasure fleet represents a fascinating what-if moment. What if China had continued its outward-looking policy? How different would our world be today? It's a powerful question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. We'll see you in the next video.